Hello, Squadron. Do you ever say something in passing and then have a friend tell you you might have something, and then you do a bunch of research on it, and then it makes you realize things about your childhood that make you go, wow, that makes a lot more sense. Yep. Hello. My name is Courtney, if you're new here. If you're not, hi, you already know me and my antics. Welcome. So recently, I've been doing some research into OCD to help me understand my brain. Now, I don't have any official diagnoses for any sort of mental disorders. However, I'm not looking to get any anytime soon, especially considering current events. That being said, though, I'd still like to perhaps discover how my brain works in order to help me and help others who may also be suffering. Yay. So anyways, yeah, one day I was like, I wonder if I have OCD, and then one of my friends was like, you may just have OCD tendencies, and I was like, what? And then I did a whole bunch of research, and I will leave links to certain articles in the description. I will also leave song recommendations that I think fit well, or at least that I identify with, given what I'm going to explain in the rest of this video. It is also very hot in here because I have to turn my fan off because it gets very, very loud. Also, I'm wearing this jacket because it's teal, and I did discover that teal is the color used for OCD awareness, so we're on theme today. So in my research, it was very easy to find what I did and didn't identify with. I will say one of the big ones that I did not seem to identify with, contamination. I do not seem to have any tendencies that would point me to have contamination OCD. I don't seem to get extremely uncomfortable if I've gotten a little too dirty. I know that's not just what it is, but I feel like most of my germ sensitivity comes from normal situations where you should be washing your hands, i.e. after using the bathroom, your hands are dirty, etc. Otherwise, I'm kind of just like, we've been on the planet this long, my body's probably got it. I put a lot of faith in my body. Moving on, and there are several different types. I'm just going to be going over a couple. The other one that I kind of identify with, but haven't fully, like, I don't know. None of these are, like, official. These are just things that I think, tendencies that I think could be something, but they could also not be something. This is just me trying to work things out. I would like to hear what you have to say as well. I think your input would be lovely. But the next one, checking. Like, checking things to the point where it's, like, almost, like, ridiculous. Almost. But the only thing I can think of where this is, like, kind of annoying for me is alarms. I set so many, and it's become a more recent thing where I have to check them at least 3 times before going to bed. This is only if I have, like, work or something in the morning or school. But it is really annoying because I feel like I have to 3 times, otherwise I feel like I will not wake up in time. And I have to, like, turn the phone on, click the button, like the ringer, on and off to make sure that it's on. But so far, that's the only thing where checking has become annoying. So there's that. Next on the list, spatial / organization. This one, I don't know. This one is kind of on and off, because sometimes I will be fine with the state of my room, but if I'm somewhere else, like a dorm or something, I feel like sometimes I have to have everything in a certain spot because there's so few things, and sometimes knowing that there's more objects in the room genuinely makes me feel just uneasy, not like entirely crazy, but it just makes me feel off, and it annoys me a little bit. Recently it hasn't been too bad. That's why I'm also kind of iffy on it, because they kind of come and go depending on where my brain is at. I think this was made a little bit worse from when I worked in retail, because I was just extra aware of how many things exist on the earth, and that sent me into quite the spiral. So there was that one. The next two kind of go together, but I'm going to focus on this one first. Existentialism. So just like, you know, questions like, what if life means nothing? Yada yada yada. A lot of times I'll find myself, this is kind of morbid, so warning. A lot of times at work, I interact with a lot of different people, and I get sad sometimes because I'm like, one day, all of us are gonna be gone, and it genuinely makes me very sad. But then, you know, the thing about work is I can kind of just focus on work. If I'm like at a restaurant with friends, it has affected me before, and it has made me spiral in that same setting. And those thoughts kind of stay. I've been in a bit of an existential slump recently. Could be personal religious reasons, could just be because I'm thinking about it. I don't know. But that does lead me into my next point, which is the religious and morality part, set of subsets of OCD. This is the thing that I talked about in the beginning, where I looked stuff up and it made parts of my childhood and my childhood brain make more sense. So I stumbled across this lovely word that I forgot how to pronounce, which is why I'm doing that. I didn't look up how it was pronounced. That's what it is. I found the word and I was like, that's specific. I like that. Anyway, a lot of my childhood, I was raised Christian. I don't know if there was any distinction in denomination, but I also want to make a point to say this is not me dogging on religion. I think religion is great. Okay. However, my brain is odd, and it takes things very seriously and very literally. So when I was reading up on this, I was like, oh man, I did that. And some of those things were things like questioning if even the most mundane things were considered sins or bad. And I can think of an example, right? I used to look up if the most mundane things were considered sinful, and I used to overthink every single prayer that I said, and whether I was saying it right, whether I was punctuating it correctly, whatever, whatever you can think of, I was probably worried about it. I was worried that some of my favorite hobbies were considered bad or sinful, like skateboarding. I thought this was normal. I think to a degree. If not, I just didn't tell anybody because I was scared. So... Yup. I'm honestly not sure what to say after all this, to be honest. It is kind of a lot. I'm sure there's more I will discover. But like I said, nothing is official. Therapy's expensive. I don't want to be officially diagnosed currently. However, I do want to understand my brain because it's odd and I've been thinking a lot. But yeah, I'd like to hear what you have to say. I'm gonna link things in the description, websites with information, songs that I think fit, and thank you for listening, thank you for watching. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say, and I hope I didn't say anything insensitive. Okay, bye.